These are trying times for many, for first responders and others on the front line of grief and suffering. Stress levels are often especially high. Based on both her research and personal experiences, my guest today will describe approaches that have been proven to help reduce stress and regain a sense of balance. Hi, this is Marlena Fiol from Becoming Who We Truly Are, a YouTube channel that deepens our understanding of who we are and what's possible for us. If you find value in this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Doing so really does make a big difference. My guest today is Kim Colegrove. Kim lost her husband David to suicide in 2014. It was less than 3 months after he retired from a 30-year law enforcement career. Kim created the PauseFirst Project to honor David's memory and to help other first responders cope with stress and trauma. But this conversation isn't just about first responders. Kim says that it's essential that every one of us try to find a better balance from our extreme focus on the external to looking more at our internal needs. Kim's own deep suffering opened her to a life of compassionate service to others. So I ask you, has suffering in your life pushed you toward or away from service to others? Kim is the author of Mindfulness for Warriors, empowering first responders to reduce stress and build resilience. It's an informative and inspirational book with useful tools for reducing stress and improving overall health that's relevant to every one of us. If you'd like to hear my hour-long interview with Kim Colegrove, I've posted the web address below. And at the end of this episode, we'll provide recommendations for additional material about grief and stress and managing them. Kim, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you for having me.
So I'd like you to begin by telling us a bit about your journey from widow to warrior and what led you to write your book.
I was teaching mindfulness in corporate settings for several years until 2014. And in September of 2014, my husband David retired from a 30-year law enforcement career. And less than 3 months later, he took his own life. We had so many plans, and he seemed ready to retire. He had been working on a new business plan for 2 years with a business partner in St. Louis, and they were ready to roll out that business. And David's death led me on a journey of discovery about stress and trauma, and specifically how trauma impacts law enforcement and other first responders.
Yeah.
And the more I learned about that, and the more I realized how negatively impactful first responder work is on individuals and their lives, the more I felt compelled to do something to help in some way. So I turned my attention from teaching mindfulness and meditation in corporate settings to trying to figure out how to work with first responders. So that was sort of the journey that led me to working initially with police officers, and then that quickly led to firefighters, EMS, paramedics, EMTs, and also social workers and other mental health professionals. When I decided I was going to teach cops how to meditate, everybody told me that would be a dead-end road. People in this work that are traditionally a little more conservative and maybe wouldn't be as open to sort of more holistic healing.
So let's also clarify a bit so we're all on the same page about PTSD. It's a mental health condition. It's sometimes triggered by experiencing or often witnessing a horrible event. So you write a lot about the stigma that's associated with admitting to weakness or emotional instability. I think it's a stigma at the societal level, but it seems especially so for first responders. Why, in your experience, is this especially prevalent for this group?
I can speak most specifically to law enforcement because that was my experience with my husband.
Yeah.
He was a police officer for 8 years, and I believe those were the 8 years that really negatively impacted him.
Yeah.
And he held on to all of the stress and trauma from those 8 years in a patrol car on a midnight shift. He held on to all of that, and he never worked with it or worked through it or processed it. And so I believe he then carried that throughout the rest of his life and the entire rest of his career. When he was no longer, he went on to be a federal investigator. He left police work and was still police work. Anyway, I think for law enforcement specifically, their biggest fear is that their employer will deem them unfit for the job if they admit to any mental or emotional difficulties at all.
Yeah. You write that Brenda, one of the law enforcement officers you interviewed, asked her therapist, "Am I too broken to be fixed?" I personally have a very strong belief that it's in confronting our brokenness that opportunities for healing emerge. In fact, the subtitle of my new book, soon to be released, is "A Mennonite Missionary's Daughter Finds Healing in Her Brokenness." So, Kim, my question for you is, how do you think about the role of experiencing flat-out brokenness in healing processes?
No one is permanently broken. Nobody is too broken to be fixed. And there's no shame in healing those wounds. Mm-hmm. But that was so poignant and really such a gut punch.
Yeah, and it seems to me that it is in fact accepting our brokenness that allows us to heal. And so it's a beautiful thing. It's the cracks is where the light comes in, right?
Yes. And no human being should think they're invincible.
Yeah.
Or they're supposed to be invincible.
Yes. Would you describe what you mean by meditation and why you believe it's so important?
I would love to. I think one of my strengths, or maybe one of my gifts in all of this, is my ability over the years to communicate the benefits of meditation and mindfulness to people who would otherwise be skeptical, and also to beginners. So I think of meditation as just a few minutes of uninterrupted silence each day. It allows you to sort of rest your brain and your body, allow your brain and body to settle, and it allows the busy analytical mind to settle and rest as well. And I try to remember to tell every group that I speak to and every class that I teach, meditation is not necessarily connected with or in opposition to any religion or spiritual philosophy. There's a tremendous amount of research that point to the benefits of meditation as a viable stress reduction tool. There are also physical benefits attributed to meditation.
So, do you have any thoughts about when traditional cognitive therapies are more beneficial and when meditation is, or vice versa?
Well, I really feel strongly that we all need to enlist a whole host of holistic modalities to keep ourselves healthy and strong and fit. And I don't think any one thing works well or best for anybody because we're all so different.
And it's so wonderful you talk about them as being complementary rather than mutually exclusive, as some people may view them on the surface. So that's great. So Kim, if there were one last thing that you'd like our listeners to hear, what would that be?
We have so much more power over our own internal landscape than we might realize. And meditation and mindfulness, while they aren't the end-all be-all, they are very powerful personal practices that any individual can use to manage their own stress, learn better emotional regulation, and to also learn more about who you really are, or allow for who you really are.
Kim, thank you so much for your time and for your presence. If you found value in this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Also, please post any comments or questions for me. I am interested, and I'll respond each day. For example, what are the stressors in your life? And what are you doing to reduce their impact on your health and your well-being? In addition, just so you know, I'll be posting a new episode of this YouTube show each Tuesday at 6 a.m. Eastern Time. For further information on grief and stress and how to manage them, we recommend the following resources. First, a YouTube video by Kelly McGonigal about making stress your friend. Also, check out this YouTube presentation that explains how stress affects your brain. And for a look at my own recovery from a stressful childhood, we recommend my memoir, which was published in 2020 by Mango Publishing, Nothing Bad Between Us. The web addresses for each of these resources are in the show notes. And remember, we are together on this journey.